Good morning to all. So today we will be having a case discussion on a retroperitoneal mass. This will be presented by Dr. Milind Alokji, who is a second year ENB PGT at MR Bangalore Hospital, and Professor Saurabh Ghosh, he is Professor and Head of Surgical Oncology Department at Calcutta Medical College, who will take us through the scenario. Okay, so Dr. Milind, you can start sharing your screen.
Good morning, sir. So is my screen visible?
Yes, please carry on.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Milind Alokji, second year DNB PGT from the Department of General Surgery. My patient, Mrs. XYZ, 56 years, Hindu lady, resident of Baruipur and a homemaker, came with the chief complaint of pain in the left upper side of abdomen for the past 2 months. The patient was apparently well 2 months back when she noticed pain in the left upper quadrant of the abdomen. Pain was insidious in onset, dull aching in nature, and progressively increasing in severity over the past 2 months. It does not radiate to any other side and is not relieved or aggravated by any factor. Patient gives a history of a feeling of discomfort in the left upper quadrant of the abdomen and back, occurring intermittently since many years. No relieving or aggravating factor related to this discomfort was noted by the patient. There is no history of trauma to the abdomen, no history of vomiting, hematemesis or melena, no history of weight loss or loss of appetite, no history of fever, night sweats, no history of altered bowel habits, hematuria, burning micturition, no history of swelling of lower limbs, no history of pain or tingling sensation in the lower limbs, no history of swelling anywhere else in the body, and no history suggestive of any metastatic spread. The patient is a known, in the past history, the patient is a known case of hypertension and dyslipidemia, diagnosed 5 years back and on regular treatment. There is no history of previous hospitalization or surgeries. Personal history, patient is married, having 2 children, 1 son and 1 daughter, both are healthy. She consumes normal, she has a normal appetite, consumes mixed diet, no history of any addiction, having a normal sleep pattern, and bowel and bladder habits are normal. The patient attained menarche at 13 years and has attained menopause at 47 years. She had a history of regular menses lasting around 4 to 5 days with normal amount of bleeding. Both the parents of the patient are alive and in good health condition. She has 1 male sibling who's 52 years old and in good health condition, and no history of any cancer related deaths in the family. The patient has self-medicated with over-the-counter painkillers such as tablet paracetamol and ibuprofen on SOS basis, but has not taken any medical assistance prior to the current visit for this current complaint. There is no history of any allergies. In summary, a 56-year-old Hindu lady presented with pain in the left upper side of abdomen since 2 months. Pain was insidious in onset, dull aching in nature, progressively increasing in severity over the past 2 months, non-radiating with no relieving or aggravating factor. A long-standing history of intermittent discomfort in the same area and back is also present. There is no history of trauma, fever, abdominal obstruction, or any other swelling in the abdomen. There are no symptoms suggestive of distant metastasis.
So at this point, do you have any provisional diagnosis, or do you have any idea about what system might be involved?
Sir, at this point, by simply the history, I am more towards excluding probably a renal involvement or excluding some kind of something like a lymphoma, sir. Based simply on the history, sir. I am not at this point in time. My history is not telling
conclusive enough to give you any diagnosis. Why did you ask for a history of trauma? Why do you want a history of trauma for a pain, sir, which is there for 2 months?
Sir, since patient is complaining of pain since 2 months, sir, history of trauma, because sir, any kind of previous trauma or fall could have led to some kind of sir, old hematoma in that area which got collected, sir.
Hematoma in that area? Which area?
So in the in the sense So not so, but
You see,
pain abdomen. So,
you are saying patient has got a pain which is a low backache type
Yes, sir.
pain. So it can be a neural pain.
Yes, sir.
And trauma might be
Trauma,
because
yes.
associated with some vertebral disc collapse or
Yes, sir.
whatever.
Yes, sir.
Well, you said it is left upper abdomen. I would have rather suggested that you might think of a pseudocyst, or there is an also known as a delayed rupture of the spleen, splenic hematoma. These are two definite entities, both in the left upper abdomen, which are associated with a history of trauma. And pseudocyst of the pancreas. Sometimes the trauma precedes the pseudocyst by several weeks.
Okay, sir.
And similarly, there is an entity known as delayed rupture of the spleen. Delayed rupture of a splenic hematoma, subcapsular hematoma of a spleen.
Okay,
so that also it presents like it's a slow, gradual build-up of the swelling, then it suddenly ruptures, and then it presents with a more acute feature. Of course, that is not such a mild symptom. That will be a sudden severe pain. So, but at least those are two diagnoses where there is a definite predisposition to a history of a trauma.
Okay, sir.
And of course, yes, back pain. If it was clearly a back pain radiating to the front, then yes, disc prolapse or spinal pathology should also be considered. Okay, so this is part of the history. So now go on to general examination. So history is pretty inconclusive, other than there is a definite pain, which is significant pain, which is persisting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Did you ask about whether the patient feels any lump in the abdomen? Because most of the patient having retinal sarcoma, they are usually slow growing and goes for a long time, and often patient can appreciate that there is a mass.
So patient has a long-standing history of a discomfort, but whenever she has tried to, she has not been.
Patient has not volunteered that.
Been able to say that there is something in the abdomen.
So no sensation of heaviness also. Other than discomfort, maybe you can use the term heaviness. Whether she complains of a heaviness or a fullness of the upper abdomen, she doesn't give any symptoms like that.
No, sir. Just a general discomfort.
Okay, fine. Please carry on.
On general examination, the patient was examined after taking informed consent in a well-lit room with proper exposure in the presence of a female attendant. The patient was conscious, alert, and cooperative. Karnofsky performance status was 90, build was average, decubitus of choice, gait was normal, and BMI was 24.5. The pulse rate was 80 beats per minute, regular in the right radial artery, respiratory rate 18 per minute, blood pressure 132/84 in right arm in supine position, and temperature was normal. There was no pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, generalized lymphadenopathy, or edema. On the abdominal examination in inspection, the abdomen is flat. The umbilicus is normal and inverted. All quadrants move with respiration. There is a fullness noted in the left upper quadrant. There are no scars, sinus, pulsations, or dilated veins. The bilateral hernia orifices are intact, and bilateral renal angles free. On palpation, abdomen is soft. There is no area of local tenderness. A hard palpable mass in the left hypochondrium and left lumbar region about 12 into 7 centimeters was noted. Superiorly, it started from about 4 centimeters from the left costal margin in the mid clavicular line, inferiorly extending up to 1 centimeters below the umbilicus, medially up to the midline, and laterally up to the left anterior axillary line. It had well-defined borders, irregular surface of variable consistency. It was non-mobile, and there was no movement with respiration. On putting the patient in the left lateral position, the mass did not shift medially. It was bimanually palpable, but it was non-palatable. There are no other masses palpable. The hernial orifices were intact, and no renal angle tenderness was noted. No inguinal lymph node was palpable, and no left supraclavicular lymph node was palpable. On percussion, sorry, sir, small mistake. On percussion, the percussion was over the mass. It was dull. Auscultation, normal bowel sounds were heard. On digital rectal examination, the finger was stool stained, and there was no mass palpable.
Could you go back to you? Can I interrupt you at this point? Could you please go back to your slide previous to this? The slide previous, no, one back. So this is fine. This is the one that we are talking about. What is the, first of all, you said that the thing is located in the left hypochondrium and the left lumbar region. Please be precise when you describe this. When you are describing the extent in such details, you are saying that medially it is going up to midline. If it is going up to midline, how can it be just restricted to the left hypochondrium and the left lumbar? Then it has to occupy the left hypochondrium, left lumbar, epigastric, and umbilical quadrant, isn't it? Left hypogastrium and left lumbar does not go up to midline. It extends lateral to the midclavicular line.
Yes.
Isn't it? So then it occupies 4 quadrants, not 2. First of all.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, what is this left lateral position?
Sir,
I mean, what information do you get from putting the patient in the left lateral position?
so the since the mass was felt on the left side, sir, left lateral position, as in, sir, the left side of the patient was put the patient. So left lateral, sir, patient is the left side is put superiorly, sir, and we see that the
Oh,
mass
if
is.
you put the left side superiorly, that is known as left lateral position. Why?
Right,
That was
Sorry,
not
sir,
my
light
concept.
lateral. Sorry, sir,
Right,
light lateral, right lateral.
Acha, I assume that is a printing mistake. You wanted to write right lateral. How does that help you?
So the
You
mass
could make
did.
the patient right lateral, left side goes up. So what?
So the mass, I observed that the mass did not shift medially, sir.
If the mass shifts, then what? If the mass does not shift, then what?
Sir, it was just to try to delineate if the mass lied in the intraperitoneal plane or the retroperitoneal plane, sir. Since the mass was
Really,
not
is that
shifting
is
medially.
that the test recommended nowadays to distinguish between intraperitoneal and retroperitoneal? I thought that was a knee elbow test.
No, actually, Dr. Saurabh, knee elbow
Huh.
twist is not recommended now because it's an awkward position for the patient.
Huh.
And then this is another corollary where you can turn the patient to one side and see whether the mass shift is
Okay, then fine.
shift.
Then it is fine. Okay,
Knee elbow
I was
is
really not
to be
aware of
mentioned.
this.
So knee elbow is not done. Now this is a consensus that yes, you can turn the patient to one side and see whether the mass shift medially. That will indicate the
Okay, fine. Then I was not aware of this. Okay, this is my fault. The third thing is, have you mentioned that you could get between the mass and the costal margin?
No, sir, I have not mentioned.
So for a left upper or a right upper abdominal mass, that is a
He
whether
has
you can
mentioned that
insinuate
there
the
is a
finger
gap.
between
There is
the
a
costal
gap of 4
margin and
centimeter.
Yes, sir.
There is a gap of 4 centimeter. Then if you say gap of 4 centimeter, the mass is not in the late hypochondriac region then. You
then it
understand?
is not at all in the. I didn't understand.
Late
It is
hypochondriac
4
region is the
centimeters
area
below.
cutting between the two lines. So if it is 4 centimeter below the costal margin, so late hypochondriac region is out. It is mainly in the lumbar,
Lumbar
mediastinum,
and umbilical region.
Okay, so you have to keep in mind the area you are describing.
Yes.
And even then, I would still say specifically mention that the finger can be insinuated between the costal margin and the mass, because that is how we were taught in those days in our book. I don't know nowadays. Maybe the clinical method
No,
books have
it's all
changed.
right. Yes. For a mass like this, one should try to insert. That is one of the important differentiating point between the splenic mass and
renal mass or a
abdominal mass.
retroperitoneal.
Yeah.
So carry on then. It is bimanually palpable. What does that tell you?
Class. Sorry, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Sorry, there was some disturbance. Sir, bimanually palpable, sir. So, to define the basically the extent of the mass, we try to delineate whether it was palpable on whether.
You have said it is bimanually palpable. What is the significance? You have to justify it. Nah? If
Yes,
you have
sir.
said something, there has to be an importance for that.
You see, once you are saying is a bimanually palpable mass, that means you are keeping one hand behind and one hand in front.
Yes, sir.
And if it is a mass which is lying lateral to the erector spinae muscle, you can appreciate the mass. And if you have a lump which is almost bulging the anteroabdominal wall,
Yes, sir.
you should not attempt to demonstrate ballotability.
So
if the lump is already in between your finger and there is no space that you need to deep from the anterior finger to palpate the lump, there is no point in telling
how
that.
will you demonstrate ballotability? Ballotability is when you push it from behind, it goes up and hits the finger anteriorly, placed anteriorly. If you, without hitting from behind, you can already feel it bimanually.
Yeah.
Then ballotability will not work anyway.
Just then you can skip the term ballotability.
So classically, bimanually palpable was described for a renal mass, which was not that big. But actually, any large intraperitoneal mass will, or a retroperitoneal mass also, will be bimanually palpable if it is below the costal margin. Okay, carry on.
So in systemic examination,
Anything important in systemic examination? Nothing. No important findings.
no important findings. Sir.
So go on to the next slide.
So summary, sir.
Another summary.
56-year-old
Okay.
56-year-old Hindu lady presented with pain in left upper side of the abdomen since 2 months. Pain was insidious in onset, dull aching in nature, progressively increasing in severity over the past 2 months, non-radiating with no relieving or aggravating factors. A long-standing history of intermittent discomfort in the same area and back is also present. No history of trauma, fever, abdominal obstruction, any other swelling in the abdomen. No symptoms suggestive of distant metastasis. On examination, a heart swelling was found in the left hypochondrium and left lumbar region, about 12 into 7 centimeters, with well-defined borders, irregular surface, extending 4 centimeters from the left costal margin and the mid-clavicular line to 1 centimeter below the umbilicus, and from the midline up to the left anterior axillary line. Mass was non-mobile, bimanually palpable, and does not fall medially when the patient is put in the right lateral position. Low lymph nodes were palpable. Provisional diagnosis. My provisional diagnosis is a 56-year lady with a mass in the left lumbar and umbilical region, most probably left retroperitoneal sarcoma, without any clinical evidence of metastatic disease.
Okay, so that's your provisional diagnosis. Would you like to offer a few differential diagnoses along with it? Or that is the only possibility that you're keeping in mind? What else could it be?
Considering my keeping in mind my history and my clinical examination, since I have not found any other history relating to the involvement of other systems such as the renal system or any history of or involvement of the spleen. And sir, also because of my clinical examination, where I have found that the mass is of retroperitoneal nature, sir, I would like to second this, stay with this diagnosis, sir.
No.
So you don't want to offer any differential diagnosis. Suppose I say that this is a left adrenal tumor. What are the points against my diagnosis? I say it's a left adrenal tumor.
So
if you say it's a non-functioning adrenal tumor,
yes, sir.
Many
a
adrenal tumors are
functioning tumor, that
non-functioning.
is different. Is a non-functioning adrenal tumor, you have same presentation. Even a kidney mass, it did not have hematuria in all cases. Even a kidney mass which is in this location.
What percentage of renal cancers will present with hematuria?
So I'm not
Do you have
sure.
any idea? Which is the commonest feature of a renal mass, renal malignancy? Commonest symptom?
Painless hematuria. Painless hematuria.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The classical triad of pain, lump, and hematuria. The hematuria may be painless, but there is associated pain. That triad is only present in about 30% of cases of all renal cancers.
Yeah.
The commonest feature of a renal cancer, so a single feature if you take, is pain. And hematuria as such is present in only around 40-45% of cases. So majority of renal cancers will not have hematuria at presentation. I mean, gross hematuria. If you
Keep
do
your
a
opinion,
microscope,
keep your opinion open.
Yes,
Keep
sir.
your opinion open. Be broad.
mind should always be open. So renal
Yes.
mass, adrenal mass. I say this is a pancreatic tumor.
Yes, why not?
Pancreatic body tail NET.
So what pancreatic tumor may have such large mass? What type of pancreatic tumors may have such a bulky tumor? Huh? These are
Serous cystomas.
cystadenomas.
Cystomas.
Cystadenomas of the pancreas from the body or in the tail region may have attained large size.
What is the common age of serous cystadenomas? Young, middle age, elderly.
So,
What?
so I'm not sure, sir.
Elderly people, slow growing tumors. So again, it fits with your diagnosis. So why can it not be a pancreatic tail mass or a pancreatic body mass? Why can it not be an adrenal mass? Why can it not be a renal mass? You in such a vague presentation where there is hardly anything other than a pain and there is a retroperitoneal lump. That is all. On your clinical examination, you have said it is a retroperitoneal lump. Although even that is difficult to distinguish in a very large mass. If there is a little bit of fixity, even a retroperitoneal mass and an interperitoneal mass is difficult to differentiate clinically. We have also seen a few patients. It's not so easy. So
Even
don't
Dr.
just
Saurabh,
go-
I like to even I'll put a GIST arising from the
of course,
left colon.
any
Because
interpret, yes,
all
correct,
GIST may
exactly.
not
Left
have
colon,
bleeding.
left colon is fixed. Sir is absolutely right. A colonic gist arising from the descending colon, that will
Yeah.
not present like an interperitoneal mass. That will act more like a retroperitoneal mass with fixity.
Yes, sir.
Definitely you have to keep that in mind. So don't be fixated. You may know the diagnosis beforehand, but you must try to come up with 2 or 3 alternative diagnoses. Not just, I mean, but don't go overboard about it. But
Yes,
keep
yeah,
an
yeah.
open mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep an open mind. Think about what else it could be. So okay, go on. Then so now that we have discussed and we have decided that there are 4 or 5 possibilities
yes,
which
sir.
easily fit the history and examination findings that you have given. Now, how will you confirm your diagnosis?
Just one question. You said retroperitoneal mass.
Yes, sir.
Now there is a clear guideline to say that what do you mean by retroperitoneal tumor? Because there are
Retroperitoneum.
some-
Define retroperitoneum.
So the retroperitoneal space, it extends from the diaphragm to the pelvic diaphragm, which is the levator ani, and anteriorly it extending from the posterior parietal peritoneum up till the posterior abdominal wall, that is the spinal column and the paraspinal muscles.
Okay.
So how do you define retroperitoneal tumors? Where from the tumor arises?
Correct.
So retroperitoneal tumors, they arise from the mesenchymal tissue and they grow anteriorly. Sir.
So any tumor arising in the retroperitoneal space, but not arising from the organs which are there in the
From this
retroperitoneum,
defined
like
organ.
the
From the-
pancreas,
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
like the kidney. If it's
So
a
that is the
renal
definition.
mass, it is also a retroperitoneal tumor, but it is not, it does not come under the classification of a retroperitoneal tumor. That will be specifically called a renal tumor. Similarly, a
Yes, sir.
pancreatic cancer will not be called a retroperitoneal tumor, although pancreas is a retroperitoneal organ.
Yes, sir.
So not arising from the known retroperitoneal organs. Okay, fine.
Come on.
So now
How
how will you
will you
prove it?
proceed?
Sir, we will do investigations to confirm a diagnosis. We will do investigations to stage the disease, and we will do investigations to assess the general fitness of the patient, sir.
Okay.
In order to confirm the diagnosis, sir, initially we can do an ultrasound, but that is an extension of the clinical examination. In this case, I would like to do a CT scan of the abdomen to confirm the diagnosis. In order to stage the disease, I would like to go for a CT scan.
CT scan abdomen.
Yes, a CCT abdomen, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
So-
yes, sir.
Has it been done in this case?
Sir,
Has the CT scan been done? Has the
no,
CT scan?
sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you, sir. No, sir, it has not been done, sir.
Oh, we don't have any clinical. Okay, fine. Then what else will you do? Suppose the CT scan says that it is not arising from the pancreas or kidney, definitely, but the planes with the pancreas are somewhat blurred. Then what? Now what?
So we will have to say they using the CT scan of the abdomen, sir, CCT of the abdomen. So we would like to assess multiple things related to the mass. We would want to assess the size of the mass and its location. We would like to assess what are the major organs that it is involving. Like as you said, it is blurring the line with the pancreas. So that is one of the major organs that it is involving. We would also like to try and delineate the major vascular structures that it is involving, and also through so these are the main things that we would like to assess from a CCT abdomen, sir.
Okay. And anything else?
Sir, if we are, as we are still suspecting a retroperitoneal mass, we would also like to see if there is any evidence of a distant metastasis, or if there is any evidence of a transperitoneal spread.
Transperitoneal spread or distant? How do you do that? How do you assess distant metastasis?
So the most commonly is a distance metastasis. If can be is to the liver or the lungs. Sir. In this case, if we have a
Right.
CCT of the abdomen, we can assess for distance metastasis to the liver if present, sir.
What about the lungs?
So for that, if we would further like to investigate by doing a CT of the lungs to stage while we are doing staging of the disease.
Contrast CT thorax. Okay, don't say CT lung. Say contrast CT of the
Contrast CT
thorax.
thorax.
So in one sitting, probably if it's a large mass, it is there. Definitely, you are thinking of a neoplastic etiology, whether retroperitoneal sarcoma or whether from the pancreas or kidney. So nowadays, you would be reasonable in saying that I would do a CE CT scan, thorax and abdomen. Then the contrast is just given once. Right? You don't have to waste money of the contrast, right? Plus, you do don't waste time. The patient comes with a CT abdomen, then you say, yes, obviously it's a tumor. Now go back again and do a CT thorax and come. It wastes time. So CE CT scan, thorax and abdomen. Okay, fine. So assuming that the radiologist reports that yes, it is likely to be a retroperitoneal tumor. Now
Yes.
what?
Sir, now, sir, sir, since we have gotten the diagnosis likely to be a retroperitoneal tumor, sir. So I would like to assess the general fitness of the patient and see whether the patient can be. Sir,
You don't want a diagnosis. You don't want a tissue diagnosis.
Sir, sir, yes, for grade of the tissue, sir, I would like to go for a tissue.
No, what is the recommendation? Just is a matter of discussion again.
Sir,
what is the recommendation for getting a tissue diagnosis before you proceed for definitive treatment?
Sir, if the mass is can be resectable, then we do not have to go for a tissue diagnosis before resection. If the tissue diagnosis is required in certain situations where we are suspecting a lymphoma, where it is a unusual presentation, where the mass is unresectable, in these cases we can go for a tissue diagnosis. In case of tissue diagnosis, we can preferably go for a core biopsy, where from CT guided core biopsy, from where we can take multiple cuts. And if we are planning for an incisional biopsy, it should be done by the surgeon who is going to perform the
incisional biopsy. Nobody does nowadays. You would always go for a CT guided or an ultrasound guided true cut or a core biopsy. That is fine. Why would you need to do an incisional biopsy? Now, you've made a very interesting point. You said if it is resectable, I will go ahead with resection. So now my question to you would be, so what are your criteria for unresectability for this particular tumor, which is situated in the left upper abdomen? Large tumor. What was the size? Around 10 centimeters, you said.
12 into 7.
12 into 7 centimeters mass, not very large. And 12 into 7 is not large. You know, Professor Shah recently took out a tumor which looked like something like 30 centimeters. So we call that large. 30, it was probably more than 30. Yes, so 12 into 7 is kind of moderate, smallish, in fact. What would be your criteria for unresectability?
So the first criteria would be that it is not, so if it is abutting an organ, then we can.
So if it is abutting an organ, that's a criteria for unresectability.
No, sir. No, it's not, sir. That's what I'm saying, sir. If it's abutting an
tell
organ,
me the criteria for unresectability, not what is not the criteria for it.
Sorry, sir. Sir, involvement of an organ where the organ cannot be involvement of a major organ structure which cannot be dissected off.
Which are they? I don't know. This is the tumor. It's in the left upper abdomen, occupying the left lumbar, the umbilical, and the hypogastric region, the epigastric region. Tell me what are the criteria for unresectability for this tumor?
You see, if you see the organs, yes, this can involve the body tail of pancreas, kidney, and the left colon. Yes, maybe the spleen. So all these four are resectable. So there is no organ there. What is the criteria to say that yes, this is not resectable?
Sir, if it is involving the superior mesenteric vessels.
That is one. Before that, invasion of the retroperitoneum. If it is going to the retroperitoneum, he cannot just take up the whole retroperitoneal abdominal wall. Second is involved major vascular. If you see the left side is more to the aorta. Yes, sir. So invasion or encasement of the major vascular structure. These are more important. Okay.
So you have to say that. Suppose it is not on the left side, it is on the right side.
Yes, sir.
Suppose the IVC is slightly encased. Is it unresectable?
No, sir. No, sir. Depending on how much involvement is there, sir.
Circumferential involvement. Almost circumferential involvement with insinuation into the interaortocaval region with abutment of the aorta.
Actually, if you are in a high volume center, even high volume center people are doing regular resections,
Vascular
then the people are
reconstruction.
doing vascular resection.
Yes,
So
Exactly. So
this-
you should know. You may
Yes,
not be in
vascular
a high volume
reconstruction is
center,
Yes.
but you should
something.
So
know
this
that they
basically
are
again
being
is a
done.
relative term. You should consider your setup whether you could do a resection or not.
Yes, sir.
But in a center which is a high volume center of sarcoma, now it is said that one of the factor for good outcome is a high volume
Vascular
center.
resection, yes, vascular,
No,
vascular.
I wouldn't agree with sir totally on this. I would still say that in your exam, you should say what is possible and what is done. If that is recommended, you do it. You may say that I cannot do it in our center. The examiner will obviously ask you, "Oh, have you seen it? Have you done it?" You can then say that no, in our center we
Okay.
don't do it.
Yeah.
But this is recommended. There are many things which are recommended in the world which we don't do or you are not doing. But that does not mean that you should not know it or you should not say it in your exam. This is a theoretical exam after all. You are assessing your theory. We are not assessing your competence in doing the operation.
And then Dr.
So,
Saurabh, I
uh,
think now there is a recommendation from Transatlantic Group of Sarcoma Group. They are saying that a pre-op core biopsy is now a standard of care. Even if suspect is a resectable tumor, because you see, you have some tumors in the retroperitoneum are well differentiated tumors.
Yes, sir.
Some maybe even benign tumors. So where
Correct,
the
correct.
resection margin may not be that extensive. Okay, so I think in exam it should be very reasonable saying that you'll do a pre-op image guided core biopsy, and that too keeping in mind that it should not be transperitoneal. It should be lateral or retroperitoneal approach, and image guided core biopsy is recommended. Now let's come for discussion. What do you do with the biopsy? How it alters your treatment? But now the sarcoma group says that a pre-op biopsy can be the standard of care.
Exactly. Suppose it turns out to be a cyst. Very often you get a histological surprise. Unless it is a very clear-cut fat density tumor where the radiologist is reasonably certain that this is a lipoma or a liposarcoma. Other tumors, it is very difficult to categorize on the basis of radiology, whether it is a fibrosarcoma, whether it is a MFH, whether it is a leiomyosarcoma, or whether if it's a pediatric patient, RMS comes into play, rhabdomyosarcomas, their chemotherapy, pre-op chemotherapy has an important role. Lymphoma, as you said, is a rare
in some cases
diagnosis
it
which
may be lymphoma
mimics.
even. In some cases
Lymphoma
it may be
mimics
lymphoma. Yeah.
GIST. Sir pointed out that if it's a GIST, then neoadjuvant imatinib will work wonders in some cases and make your resection and your life much easier if you give. So true cut biopsy has a definite role to play. Okay, as sir rightly pointed out. So, and vascular resection also you should keep in mind that that is not an absolute criteria. Suppose the infrarenal IVC is involved and the aorta is involved. You can cross clamp and excise and put in a graft with the help of a vascular surgeon. And these are being done routinely in centers in India, let alone the world. Routinely in the West and the South, these resections are being done at big centers. So I think you should say that yes, sir, it is possible. We don't do it in our center, or I don't have any personal experience, but theoretically I know that it is possible to resect a segment of even the aorta or the IVC and replace it with a vascular graft. They will discuss graft, what graft will you put, whether PTFE or Dacron, whether it will be covered or not. So then you can discuss those things.
And I think in this context, the question of neoadjuvant treatment should come up.
Yes, whether
you
correct,
have such
you
aggressive
will consider neoadjuvant or not.
Yeah.
So
what's your plan?
Yes, what is your plan?
So in this case, since has pointed out that this CT probably has shown that a blurred line with the pancreas, so we can and if it does not involve any other vessels, and in our kind of a setup, I would like to attempt a complete resection along with the
what incision? What incisions? What are the possible incisions that you can make?
So what is the approach?
Say
force in a below costal margin. You will go transperitoneal, you will go retroperitoneal approach. No? Because you see, everything is close by the colon, the pancreas. So the best approach is Transperitoneal by a long midline incision. You need to assess.
So on opening, you find that it is retroperitoneal. Then how will you approach that? Now that sir has said that you will go transperitoneally. So you have cut the peritoneum, you are in the peritoneal cavity. You can see the bulge of the tumor, but other organs are covering it. How will you mobilize it? How will you reach the retroperitoneal space now? It's mainly in the left side.
If you see the tumor,
Yes, sir.
medially you have colonic vessels,
Yes, sir.
and with the retroperitoneum it is pushing the kidney forward. Renal vessels are in front. And now, how do you reflect these structures and reach the tumor? Where do you start?
Or maybe it is below the kidney. Maybe the renal vessels are being pushed up rather than front. Maybe it is anteromedial to the kidney and the vessels are slightly pushed up. But before reaching the kidney, you have to do something. When you open the abdomen, you don't see the kidney, do you?
Yes, sir.
What do you have to do?
So we have to, sir,
What is line up told? What is line up told?
Sir
Is
is
the
giving you
peritoneal
hints
reflection
also.
on the lateral border of the colon to the parietis.
Yes, so you have to reflect the colon medially. That is the first thing you will do. Then you have to divide the part of the gastrocolic ligament also and lift the entire left colon, including the left transverse colon medially. And if you are lucky, then the mesocolon will be free from the tumor and it will come off. Sometimes part of the mesocolon may be densely adherent to the tumor. And while reflecting it, you might make a hole in the mesocolon. If that is in an avascular portion, that is fine, not a problem. But sometimes you may have to take the mesocolic vessel. Then partly, if the marginal artery of Drummond is intact, the colon may survive. Otherwise, you may have to resect a part of the colon because that is getting devascularized. Although the colon structure itself is not involved, the mesocolon may be infiltrated. So judging from the size, judging from the mobility, judging from the CT findings, you should keep that in mind that a big tumor on the left side, you may require to resect the overlying colon. And so you should take a consent for a stoma or to consent for a colonic resection at least. Okay. So assuming that in this case, you need not have to do it. You just manage to reflect the colon. Now you can see the tumor lying there. Below, maybe small gut loops are there. You may have to take them down also. Now what? Medially, it is reaching up to midline, you said. Clinically, you said it is reaching up to midline. So then it is definitely close to the vessels.
yes, sir.
Major vessels. So then,
So we will try to, sir, if it is abutting the vessel, we will try to, keeping the adventitia intact, we will try to dissect the tumor of the vessel, sir.
okay, or even you might try to go subadventitially since it is the aorta. Aorta is a little thick wall, so that will give you an additional margin. Dissect subadventitially and reflect the tumor of the aorta. So you have to first safeguard the important structure.
Yes,
If
sir.
you have managed to do that, then the lateral part, there is nothing much important. Superiorly, again, superiorly or medially or inferiorly, the kidney might be there. Sir is saying that the kidney has been pushed forward. That will make your life even more difficult. Then the kidney also has to be mobilized similarly.
Yes, sir.
And it has to be taken off medially, and then you have to get the mass out. So if it was suppose it was a limb sarcoma, it was a sarcoma in the thigh, what kind of margin would you get? What kind of margin would you aim for?
So for 2 centimeter margin, sir.
At least 2 centimeters. If it was high grade, you would try to get 5 centimeters. Sometimes it is not possible to get 5 centimeters all around, but you would try to get it. At
Okay,
least
sir.
the major compartment, especially for a high grade tumor in the limb. But what about the retroperitoneum? Can you get a 5 centimeter margin all around in the retroperitoneal
No,
space?
sir. For the retroperitoneum, sir, the aim is to have a
Gross
macroscopic
total resection. Gross
macroscopic
total
gross.
resection, that is.
Okay.
So margins are actually, it is not possible to get wide margin. How can you get a
Yes.
wide margin? Then you'll have to resect the aorta and IVC in all cases
Yes,
in a
sir.
large retroperitoneal tumor. So that
Yes,
is too morbid. That is not routinely done. So again, that you must understand, you must counsel the patient that in a retroperitoneal tumor, we can't really get a very wide margin. It is obviously abutting the posterior parietis.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to take 5 centimeters from the posterior parietis, you'll have to remove the entire posterior parietal wall up to
Yes,
the
sir.
skin. And that is not possible. Then the patient will have a hole in the back.
Yes,
You
sir.
can't do that. So retroperitoneal tumors, you never get a wide excision. You just get an excision of the gross total tumor. And there is always a chance of recurrence.
Recurrence.
So that you have to say,
Yes, sir.
tell the patient, which is why they are such a challenging problem. Okay, so any role of adjuvant therapy? You have done the resection. Suppose it comes out to be a liposarcoma, myxoid. Do you know the types of common types of retroperitoneal tumors, histological?
Sir, liposarcoma, leiomyosarcoma, then we have liposarcoma, malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumor.
MPNST, very important. Then,
Sir, then we have
sometimes you'll get a diagnosis of pleomorphic sarcoma.
it's a synovial sarcoma, pleomorphic sarcoma. Yes.
So, what is a pleomorphic sarcoma? What do you mean by pleomorphic sarcoma?
So pleomorphic sarcoma, sir, it's a
mixed component.
Mixed component, sir. It's a multiple. It shows multiple histological patterns. Sir.
What multiple? What do you mean by multiple histological patterns? Do you understand? See, most sarcomas, they are either composed of round cells or
Yes.
they are composed of spindle cells.
Spindle cells.
Say fibrosarcoma, MPNST, these are spindle cell tumors.
Spindle cells.
Then liposarcoma,
Round
something
cell.
like they are round cell tumors.
Yes.
So some of the high grade tumors, they are so high grade and they are so bizarre in shape that they neither replicate round nor they replicate spindle cells. So this is a mixture, all kinds of polymorphic cells are there. These are known as pleomorphic sarcomas and they are generally high grade and they do badly. Okay.
Yes.
So will you put a drain or will you not put a drain?
So put a drain, sir.
Why? What is the advantage of putting a drain?
It is a large mass and dissection has been done, sir. So firstly, would be to ensure that any collection that is there is drained out, and secondly, sir, since we are dealing very closely with major vascular structures, if in case of any injury, it would also help us to identify that.
Any other structure injury that you might be worried about, for which you need to take some pre-op precautions in that region, you said?
So ureter, sir.
So what can you do?
So we can put a stent in the ureter.
Okay, good. So pre-operatively, you ask your urology colleague to come and put a stent in the ureter. That will help you a lot. In most cases, be liberal with that. It will
Yes.
help you to identify the ureter. Otherwise, in a big retroperitoneal mass, identification of the ureter becomes a real challenge, especially if it's a recurrent case. Okay, good. That's good. Sir, what else to ask?
Yeah.
Follow up.
Follow up and what is the commonest type of retinal sarcoma you come across?
So liposarcoma and leiomyosarcoma.
So what is the difficulty in management of liposarcomas? Liposarcoma has a different type of behavior, unlike others like a yeast or not.
So liposarcoma can they can present in a number of fashions. It can be well differentiated, de-differentiated, pleomorphic,
Yeah.
and depending on
Liposomas are notorious for recurrence. And how does the recurrence behave vis-a-vis primary surgery?
So it has been seen, sir, that usually at the primary liposarcoma, there is around 55% chance of resection is there. But after the first resection, after the first recurrence, there is only chance of 20% resection, and the third recurrence, there is only a chance.
So
of
they
10%
change
resection.
histologically also. The
They
recurrent tumors
gradually
are
become
more aggressive.
de-differentiated.
Yeah.
De-differentiated. With
more-
every
more-
recurrence, the tumor, the DFS, the disease-free survival decreases. You will see that. So the first recurrence may have occurred 2.5 years or 3 years after the primary surgery. After you do the debulking for the second time, when the patient comes back with the third recurrence, she will come back within 1 year. If you third time also you manage to remove it, fourth time she will probably come back just in 6 months' time, and it will become multifocal now. It will be in various places, separate nodules you will see growing regionally. And but since it is slow growing, generally, there are patients, sometimes you will hear anecdotal stories of patients who have been operated 3 times, 4 times, and they are carrying on for 5, 6, 7 years. So that is, I think, is a meaningful survival. So even if there is a recurrence, you should go ahead, you should explain to the patient that maybe I will not be able to remove. Like you said, in the second, there is only a chance of 20% total removal. But even if you cannot do total removal, if you can say remove 80 to 90%, for a liposarcoma, histologically proven liposarcoma, it may still offer a meaningful survival
Okay.
advantage to the
For
patient.
liposarcoma, sir, incomplete resection also has
Exactly.
shown to improve
So
survival.
it's have
as
some
well.
benefit because it is slow growing. The patient may still do well for 1 year, 1.5 years, which is not an insignificant time. The patient will be relieved of the bulky symptoms and all.
In extremity sarcomas, radiotherapy is a important adjuvant treatment. What is the limitation in retroperitoneal tumors with regard to radiation treatment?
Sir, radiosensitive organs, sir.
But what is the recommendation? We will not give at all, or there is some consideration to have radiation treatment in the retroperitoneal?
Sir, in high-risk tumors, which are basically said as to be large tumors or high-grade tumors, preoperative radiotherapy along with surgical resection is recommended, sir.
Even there is a role for
Adjuvant
post-radiotherapy.
also. Adjuvant, yes,
Adjuvant.
definitely. If
Now
it is
you
high
have-
grade,
you have-
your margins were close. You can, if the radiation oncologist has a good machine and it is not very close to important structures like the small intestine and all, you can guard some of the small intestine, you can guard the kidney on one side at least. The radiation oncologist may consider adjuvant radiation. They may not be able to go up to very high doses because the kidney will be exposed, the duodenum will be exposed, but they can do something.
Okay, sir.
But by and large, retroperitoneal sarcomas are neither very radiosensitive nor very chemosensitive, with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
There are a few exceptions. Okay.
How do you follow this up patient? Follow-up of
Sir,
this patient?
follow-up of the patient will be done by history, clinical examination, and a routine CT scan 3 monthly for the first 2 years, followed by 6 monthly for the next 5 years, and then yearly.
Because clinically it is difficult to detect a
Very difficult.
recurrence
Very
of
difficult.
recurrent tumors. Imaging, yes.
I think he has answered
Yeah.
most of it, sir.
Yeah. It is good. Any
Do you
question
have
from
any
the-
idea about the chemotherapy drugs which are used commonly for sarcomas?
Sir, for sarcoma, sir, etoposide, adriamycin, and
Not etoposide commonly. Ifosfamide and adriamycin.
ifosfamide.
Yeah.
Ifosfamide.
Antibiotic based chemotherapy.
Yes, ifosfamide.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Dr. Saurabh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.